Okay. All right, Rachel, over to you. We've been dying to hear your testimony. And I'm hoping you're going to add your children and your husband into this testimony because the testimony is very profound. I'm actually going to switch my mic off for a while so that you can do all the talking. And over to you. Rachel's been on the program. You're going to tell us how long you've been on the program. Tell us basically where you live and how big your family is and why you changed, and then how things have changed and how that's totally inspired you to go around and help so many other people. So Rachel's an inspiration. That's why I need her testimony. We all need to hear it.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you for the opportunity to share my own personal testimony and our family testimony. So a couple of years ago when we were in lockdown, it was obviously a God thing, because I saw a link to a link to a link, and I tapped on all the links and eventually got onto you. And attended one of your free information sessions, and basically on that information session I had invited my girlfriend in America who had been just diagnosed with breast cancer. So after we had listened to you, I contacted her and said, because I live in Australia, so she's in the US and I'm in Australia, and I said to her, what do you think? I said, I think this is amazing, and it's the opportunity that we need for you. I was thinking about her. I didn't even think about myself, but I said, I think this is an opportunity for yourself to get things right in a nutrition side of things. And she just said to me, I just have not got the brain space to be do anything besides what I'm doing now with looking down the pathway of a mastectomy, of a chemotherapy, of radiation therapy. And she said, I just have not got the brain space. And I said to her, what about if I do the course, 100 Days to Health that was, and if there's anything in there, then I will pass it on. And I honestly, that was my motivation for going onto the course. It was nothing, it was nothing to do with myself. And, you know, I think that is the whole thread of my entire modus operandi, I guess you would say, because even I didn't actually think that I actually had any issues, any health issues. I thought that we were a normal family with not too much going on. But I was definitely surprised and realized after a time that we had some major things going on in our lives that I just thought were normal and accepted that it was okay. So I never actually went into the program with a reason for myself or my own family's needs. So that in itself is quite unique, I think. So I'll start with my husband. He's an amazing guy, a really amazing guy. And so 15 years ago, he started to get what they call atrial fibrillation, which is the heartbeat goes erratic in the atrium. And when he had those, lots of people have it, but he had it when he was in his, I think, late 30s. Yes, it would be late 30s. And he started to get this atrial fibrillation. And throughout the course of 12 years, he'd had 20 DC reversions. So, you know, the stopping of the heart and starting it again. So for 20 times he'd gone in, he'd been sedated, he'd been anesthetized to a degree, and then he'd had this DC reversion. And then he would take a day and a half at least to recover from that procedure. So, and he was doing his PhD at the time. So, and a side effect of him getting his atrial fibrillation, so he would go into atrial fibrillation and out of atrial fibrillation. But when it got stuck in there, that's when he needed the DC reversion and couldn't get out himself. So he, the symptom that he got the most was that his brain left him because he wasn't getting enough oxygen to his brain. So that in itself created a whole big issue for him. He's one of those guys that's very intelligent, and you start to lose your brain, it's not much fun. So a lot of frustration came out of any time that he would start to get into this rhythm with his heart, he would just get really frustrated because he knew it'd wipe out a day and a half of his life, let alone all the chemicals and everything going into his system. So anyway, he was on, over that 12 years, he was on maximum medication for his heart. And we'd had electrical studies done, and the pathway that was incorrect or misfiring was on the left side of the heart. So if he had, so they came to a point where they decided that he would need an ablation done. So that would mean that he would have to have surgery, well, a wire goes through the right side of the heart into the left side of the heart to burn the misfiring part of his heart. And there were multiple spots. So, and then if it's on the left side of the heart, as you know, the blood goes straight to the brain through the aorta. So the potential of having a stroke was very high, and he's only a young man with kids. So we decided not to go down that pathway. But when it came to the 20th time, it was like he was so frustrated with it, and the time that we'd lost for him and everything. We contemplated it, and then we both came to a place where we just went, no, there must be another way. There has to be another way. And that's when we started researching and thinking about other ways that we might be able to help. So he came to a place where he started doing whole food plant-based. Literally on the 1st of January, I think it was 2017 or 18, he just literally just went cold turkey. He went off all meat, he went off gluten, he went off dairy, he went off refined sugars, and went whole food plant-based. And within a very short amount of time, I'm talking days, he was able to come off his heart medication. And we had discussed it, and my background is emergency nursing. So, you know, I have seen all this sort of stuff lots and lots and lots. So for him to come off his medication, it was fine. So even though he was on full strength. So, but I tell you what, so from that time, from a couple of days in, he has not had any issues with his heart, even though the previous 12 years he has. So for the last 3, he hasn't had any heart issues at all. I think I've got my dates mixed up, but it's the last 3 years he hasn't had any heart issues at all. No irregularities, nothing. So come forward until the last 2 years. So he's been fine, but come forward to when we actually met you, and he was still plant-based, whole food, plant-based, and refined sugars out, caffeine out, and gluten was out. But we didn't know anything about food combining. We didn't know anything about eating raw before cooked. We didn't know anything about having a fruit meal before, you know, at the start of the day. So we didn't know about the AIM products. So once we implemented those, that's when there was another radical change that happened in his body. So pre that, it was his heart. Post the implementation of those changes in his body, he started to run faster. So he was getting older, but like he could run a 12 kilometers, like instead of 57 minutes or 58 minutes, he'd run it at 54 minutes, which is a big deal for runners, I believe. That's a big, big deal. So his recovery rate improved, and his injury rate decreased. And this is a guy that's been running since he was 6, and then now he's 55. So, you know, for somebody to have such a dramatic improvement in his times, he was super, super excited. It got his attention. It really did. The other thing that happened in that time frame since meeting you, Marianne, was he'd had in the past what they call a TURP, so transurethral resection of the prostate. So he had an enlarged prostate, And at a very young age. He was in his early 30s when he had that done, and he actually, when he went into surgery, he had to go back 3 times in the same day, and we nearly lost him. It was a real hoo-ha. It was real. He went to intensive care. It was real stressful situation at the time. But post having that, the flow of his urine was reasonable, and then over time it decreased to the point where he was weeing like 7 or 8 times a night. So, and that was the other thing that really changed, is that he now has absolute normal flow. So for a guy that has prostate issues, or like, you know, like and a hypertrophied prostate, you know, it just totally disappeared, and he has no issues. So he sleeps all the night through. So he's very happy about that. So that's, you know, these are major things for a guy. And they're major things for me, because then that's not me getting woken up in the nighttime while he's up, and he's then not stressed and distressed about his waterworks all the time, because it's so annoying, you know. So these things, although they seem little, they're actually major, because they have huge ramifications, not only for him, but for all of us in the household, because of his he slept better, his energy increased, he lost 8 kilos straight off the bat and hasn't put it back on. And, you know, like, you know, not to be on medications anymore, not to be reliant upon going to the emergency department. And, you know, like we used to have special insurance when we traveled overseas, you know, all those sorts of things, because he'd been in hospital the last 18 months. And so you have to have special insurance when you travel. All those things have gone, you know, like it's just incredible, really. And yeah, so that's my husband. And there's more things I can share, but I'm conscious of time as well. And so we have 2 daughters, and so both of those went on the AIM products immediately once I understood how they worked and all those sorts of things. I'm a bit of a researcher, so I checked things out, and we started to do raw before cooked and having the fruit for breakfast. And I kid you not, their learning just went up exponentially. Like they've always been good thinkers, but their ability to critically think is, I know it happens with age, I get that, but to me, it's more than what perhaps would have been. We do actually homeschool and have been for the last 4 years, but in that time frame, it's, you know, like you teach your kids how to research, you teach your kids how to think outside the box, and then they do the rest. And that's what seems to have happened, is that their ability to critically think has really, to me, and my husband is a teacher, and he's happy with their level of knowledge and things in life. So that is a real positive. The other thing that happened with them is their mood improved, which is always lovely. Always lovely. Now they're a tween and a teen, so we have a constant mellow sort of household. Not too much rocks the boat, which, you know, I know from experience with other friends and that's not always the case in their household, but they have a sense of peace and quietness, but also know how to have fun and joy and friendships and all those sorts of things. So I think that has really helped settle their thoughts. What else was I going to say about them? Oh, that's right. They used to, oh my gosh, how did I forget that? They used to have lots of allergies. So they were allergic to watermelon, they were allergic to kiwi fruit, apples, bananas, melons, some nuts, particularly pistachio and almonds. And before changing our way, it seemed like there was a new fruit every week that would come on that they couldn't eat. They'd say, I'd get that swelling and that itchy roof and that feeling of swelling in the throat and that. And then I spoke to you about it, and you said to give them an increase. I understood the science behind how your body can create its own antihistamines. So, like instead of losing hope, I thought, okay, let's try this. And so we did a massive, just 2 weeks of having 18 omega a day and having the barley life. And I kid you not, they have not had any allergies since. We have pistachios, and the kids, well, one of the kids, we give it as presents because she just loves a whole bag to herself, not to share, but that's her, that's her things. So, like as a mum, it's really, life is hard enough, and you want it to be even and stable and good and right, and then you get curveballs thrown at you and things like that. But when you see the curveballs reversing and going the other way, it just does something to your heart as a mum. We're winning. We're not going down the pathway of having more allergies. We're not going down the pathway of now needing heart surgery. Now, needing a permanent catheter, the way things were going with Larry. Things like that. It's just such a relief as a parent and as a mum and as a wife. It just really thankful that those things are happening. The other thing that happened is, I think it happened from kindergarten. I would hate to actually say that, but I think it happened from kindergarten that we actually had an infestation from parasites. And this was an issue that followed us for a good 7 years. And, it was awful. We went to the infectious diseases department, and oh gosh, it was just out of control. They were out of control. The parasites were out of control in the intestine. And I got to a point that I was using Vermox on a monthly basis for the children, and for myself and husband, it was 2 weekly and sometimes once a week, just to control the symptoms that we were getting. So the symptoms would be bedwetting for the kid, or for one of the kids, lethargy, exhaustion, iron deficiency, itchiness, obviously, in the anal area and in the pubic area. It was just awful. And then, and then we come and we realize, we can use, I did actually try natural products in the past, which were not effective. But I think the whole picture of, changing our diet, going on the Para-90 as well as the flora food, and looking at the garlic and the onion, all those sorts of things, that in itself brought the parasites under control. So then we weren't having exhaustion and all those sorts of things. So, that in itself is absolutely amazing. We still do the parasite cleanse probably more often than the average person, just when I notice changes happening in our family. But I do believe that will decrease as time goes on. That we will get it all under control. This is like, 7-year infestation that I just could not get it under control. So that in itself is absolutely amazing as well. And, I think so there's lots of things, with the kids and my husband, and, I just, that alone, if it was for nothing else, that is incredible. And myself, I used to be extremely tired all the time, and it wasn't just the parasites. It's been since I was before, like when I was a teenager, I used to sleep in the afternoon, and when I was at uni, I'd go to class and then come back and have a sleep, and it's been a long-term ailment, I guess you would say, is this extreme lethargy that I've had in the past. And so to now not even need a nanny nap, compared to having 2 or 3 a day, spot sleeps a day, just to keep my head above water, that is gold to me. That is gold. I have the energy and the enthusiasm and the the vibrancy now that I didn't have in the past. And to feel like you're going to a place where, you know, that you haven't got the energy to play with your kids and not have the energy to do life. That can be a difficult thing. And so I used to have chronic pain issues in my body with my neck and my lumbar spine area, to the point where it would, you know, affect even my career with my job that I was doing, because I was always standing. And all of that is gone. I have no pain in my back, no pain in my neck, and I haven't for a long time. I haven't taken Panadol or Nurofen for such a long time. And previously I was on that, you know, I was on Panadol way too much. I was on it 3, sometimes 4 times a day, and I would never go to anything higher because I didn't want to. And I was on the, you know, the anti-inflammatories every single day, and those things I'm not taking at all. I used to have to go to the podiatrist every 4 weeks because I had corns on my feet. I don't even go to the podiatrist anymore. Like, it's just mind-boggling. And I used to think we were normal and had nothing wrong with us, which is astounding. But I think as much as it's helped my own family and my own life, and like I could talk about my mum and her energy, and now she hasn't got bored and she's not on anti acids anymore, and her energy is up and her cholesterol's down and her liver's back to normal, all those sorts of things. I can talk about those things, but the thing that has really, really inspired me is when you help somebody else also have incredible results and journey with them. You know, like, I've spent 27 years of my life rubbing shoulders with doctors in the emergency department. And so I know the science side of things, I know the medical side of things, but you know, I have never learnt what you've taught me, Marianne. I never, ever connected those dots before. And now, because I've got the 2 knowledge areas together, it really is very exciting, because I don't know how many times I tear up every week when people message me and say things, you know, and I just think, yes, we've got another one. We've got a type 1 diabetic that's just been recently diagnosed, and she's now totally off her insulin entirely over a course of, you know, 3-4 months, and she's still off them. And I know what she would have had to go through if she had continued on the pathway that she did. And, you know, because I've seen kids come into the emergency department, I've seen them with ketoacidosis, I've seen amputations, I've seen it, you know, and she doesn't have to go through that. And it makes my heart just like, wow. And like, you know, I've got a lady in her 80s with stage 4 renal failure. The next step is renal dialysis, and we're reversing her blood results. And it just, there's just so many stories, you know, the man with a cancer in his stomach that wasn't able to sleep at night because he just had this reflux happening all day and all night. And you teach them the principles, and then it stops. Like, it's just, people are getting hope, getting hope. And it's just a really incredible place to be. I don't think I could go back to nursing like I did, knowing what I know now, because it's just, this is where it's at. You know, the dietary changes, the lifestyle changes. There's just, yeah, the reward is incredible. It's the reward for the individual, the reward to work with people. It's just, I don't know how to thank you enough, Marianne. I really don't. It's an astounding time in my life.
Rachel, it's been, and I don't say this lightly, really an honor and a privilege to work with you, because you've run with it. You've just gone out there and not only applied it, but you've helped other people apply it. And it's so exciting to work with you because of that. But all of you, you know, even if you feel that it's not your mission to go and help other people, the fact that you're helping yourself and your health improves, you said it, you get so excited. It's like, yes, And the more you help people, the more confidence you get in what you're doing, because it's not just working for you, it's working for all these people out there. I'm now so far down this road, I don't ever doubt when somebody says to me, I've been told I've got 3 months to live. Do you think there's a possibility? Yes, absolutely, there's a possibility. But you're not going to know if you don't try. And it's better to try than to not try at all. And even if, as I said to somebody, even if you do have 3 months to live, you're going to have a better quality of death because you'll be in less pain. You'll be calmer because, as you spoke about how your children's moods are affected and the calmness, and you'll be calmer. And very often what happens is they don't die. They survive. One woman changed when she was in her late 50s and she's now in her 80s. She had incurable cancer. There was nothing they could do to help her. And you see that over and over and over again. And it's not us. It's the fact that the human body is designed to repair itself, and it just does when you allow it to. Your testimony is so incredibly amazing, and you always have these amazing stories to tell about other people's lives as well. I want to ask you a practical thing, because very often people will say, but it costs so much money to get healthy. You were speaking about taking, over-the-counter kind of medications and stuff that your husband was on, and the parasite stuff, and, all the things that the kids were taking and you were taking and everybody was taking. If you had to add up the amount of money spent on, let's say, medication over-the-counter or prescribed, and the amount of time that you spent seeing people to help you with your problems, and just look at your overall diet, would you say that you're saving? And if you had to give it a percentage or a dollar term, what would you say you're saving on let's say, just a monthly basis? Are you finding there's any savings, or is it costing you more to live like this?
Oh, to be honest, we are really blessed when it comes to the food that we're given and the food that we produce and we also give. Whereas before it didn't have meaning. Like, the food that we grew did not have meaning, but now it does. So we pass on and we receive. So our food bill has dramatically decreased because of that. Whereas I didn't value it before, I really didn't. So that in itself is incredible. Because like if people would give you food, I didn't really appreciate it and I didn't really use it. And if it didn't, you know what I mean? Like, it was pretty amazing. Yeah, but now I know what to do with it, and I know how good it is for us and things like that. So I always find something to do with it. And yeah, so I would say a good $500 easily a month. So we were seeing the cardiologist, we were seeing the GP because of the prostate issues, we were seeing the infectious diseases because of the parasite issue, we were seeing the urologist because of the prostate issue. We don't have to see any of those anymore. None of us have been to the doctor. None of us has been to the GP at all in the 2 years. For nothing.
Just because you don't need to.
We do not need to. That's exactly right. We don't need to. And, as you said about the medications, we don't have to buy medications every month for my husband, and the medications, over-the-counter medications. And like I said, the insurance, gosh, there's just so many areas. If you stopped and really thought about it, it would be an interesting project to do. But
actually,
absolutely.
Get your kids to do it as a maths project with homeschooling. Give them the names of the medication you're on and get them to go online and find out, and how much does it cost to see this person and how much to do that. And let's see what they come up with. It'll be an interesting project and a nice exercise for them as well. Because very often, your kids are great. They've embraced this. Very often you'll find, particularly if you've got older kids, they're like not really interested because they're so set in their ways. But when they start working out what it costs, they are very aware, young people, of, well, if we save X amount of money, we can take this money and spend it somewhere over here. It's an interesting exercise to do, even as an adult, just to do it and say, how much am I saving? Because I know our grocery bill was about a third of what the rest of the families were, because all your junk food you're not eating anymore, and you're not spending time on soft drinks and cookies and takeouts and stuff like that. So just that in itself. And we weren't big people at 8. I've always cooked my own food. But for us, it was a third when I compared it to family members with the same size, the same socioeconomic background. So it's an enormous saving. And I think the thing that I'm getting from what you're saying is it's an enormous saving in stress and worry. And that's pretty priceless as well, because you get to a place where you're living in a sweet spot where you're not stressed, and you're not stressed about what you're going to prepare, because you know, and it's easy. And I love the recipes you're putting on Facebook. I mean, that curried lentil and cauliflower soup. Oh my word, you've got to send me that recipe, please. That was delicious. And I don't know what you photograph, how you're taking your photographs, but whatever it's with, it's taking magnificent photographs. That really was a beautiful picture. And I would love that recipe. It sounds amazing. So please pass that one on. I'm always looking to see what you guys are putting on Facebook, and I'm loving the recipes that you post and the things that you post. And that's what's so nice about what we do, is we found our community or our tribe. This is a great place to bounce your ideas off. Sometimes we can sound like we're not Stepford wives type of people. We're not all conformists. We're all doing different things with the same principles. And we're all pretty chilled about it. And if you start getting anal about it, I'm going to smack your fingers, because this is not a religion. It's a lifestyle. And it's about living in that sweet spot where you don't need to go to the doctors. It's not that you hate doctors. You just don't need to go. It's very liberating. I find it extremely liberating to not live in fear of like traveling. We'll have extra insurance in case something terrible happens to us. You know, and accidents do happen. I understand that. I'm not saying don't get insurance, but it's not living in fear of these dread diseases that just appear. And somebody last night in the group was saying there's this amazing person who's always done a lot of walking. He's super healthy. He's not been overweight. Everybody in the community knows that he's healthy, and he walks in the forests and he walks here. And he just went for a walk and dropped dead on his walk at the age of 55, had a heart attack. And she's saying that's so unfair. Why did that happen? I said, well, without knowing any history about him, things happen because you just had too much caffeine and there was a little blockage because you maybe ate too much fat the night before, and you just need all those little things to tie together and you can drop dead. And as I said, not to frighten anybody, because once you get out of that and you realize that, gosh, we're living in this liberated place where we're not in fear anymore because we're understanding our body. That's what 365 really helps you understand your body. And you're not in this space where you're living in this gray area where you think something is going to jump on you, and then you're going to drop dead and you're going to get runaway cancer. That was always my fear as a kid. People got runaway cancer. It was a terminology people used. And you do have cancers that move very fast. My daughter's, one of her best friend's husband got diagnosed with cancer a couple of years back. And 7 days later, they said to him, you're in the end stages of cancer. This is a very aggressive cancer. There's nothing we can do. 7 days later, he was dead. And he was in his late 30s. So that's the thing of not living. You have this total centeredness and this consciousness that your body's working properly and you love it and you're looking after it and it's happy that you're doing that. So Rachel, thanks so much for that. Really, if you want to add anything else, you can. But really a brilliance. And I would love to share that on YouTube because I think it's an amazing testimony to so many people. So let me know if you're happy with that. Rumble, YouTube, maybe they'll take it off YouTube, but we'll definitely put it on Rumble. People need to hear our stories, and I would love for you to share your stories if you're feeling comfortable with it coming up. So just drop me a line and just say, I'm ready to share my story. But what a powerful story. I've been trying to pin her down and get a time, but this is kind of the only time we really have to meet. So I'm going to double up and you do testimonies in these groups when we can and when somebody's got their story to tell. Thank you so much for that. So inspiring. While you were talking, I was thinking, I'm sure you had parasite problems as well. And you eventually got to, yeah, I remember correctly. I hear so many people's stories. I'm just going to see if there are any more questions. People are saying, wonderful, amazing testimony. Thank you, Rachel. Love that you started your health journey with the intention of helping a friend. And isn't that, Linda, I don't know how well you know Rachel, but I've got to know her, and that's Rachel's heart, is to help everybody else. And you have to be that kind of person to go nursing anyway, you know, unless you're wanting to, you know, I know there's some people in nursing that maybe just do it as a job, but certainly not you. She's a true nurse. Florence Nightingale would have been very proud of you, Rachel. So yes, your husband's story is exactly what I had to hear this morning. You see here, you're helping somebody else. As my husband's heart rate drops to as low as 37, and his doc is, of course, referring him to a cardiologist. Thank you. Forever grateful for Marianne's divinely inspired teachings. Blessings and great health to all. Linda, I'm so grateful that you were able to be helped. Shane says your testimony is heartwarming and encouraging to so many people, Rachel. You radiate love and enthusiasm for love and the people around you. Absolutely. You're a special woman with an amazing vision, storing up lots of treasures in heaven. You are. Yes, it's amazing, Rachel. Thanks so much for sharing. Mahalia says, so inspiring. You're so blessed and you are such a huge blessing. Belinda says, very inspiring, Rachel. Thanks for sharing. So yes, so very often we have people who say, well, I don't really have anything, but I'm doing it for my family. And then you find like, oh, I'm sleeping better. I have more energy. You know, my libido is up and my husband's enjoying that. Or then maybe the other way around. The husband will say my libido is up and my wife's enjoying it. Either way, it's just an amazing thing. It's the human body. And yes, we get all warm and fuzzy and we get goosebumps talking about this, but the human body is designed to repair itself. You've got to learn to trust it. And if you're not trusting it yet, the longer you're on the program, the more you'll trust it. If you feel you need the knowledge and you want to master it, get onto 365. It's an amazing program. It will teach you what you need to know. There are many people that also do the natural health and nutrition course, which is for people who want to help other people. And you do need that background so that you know that you're doing it the right way. Rachel is busy studying that course as well. And in fact, she's our star pupil. She's doing incredibly well. But she already has a strong physiology. If you have that physiology background, it's so easy to put the pieces of the puzzle together. I came from biology, anatomy, chemistry, science background, and then you're learning the stuff and you put them together and it's like, wow, 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 wow. And so on the 365, we teach you basic physiology about your body. How does your liver work? Performs 500 functions. The nice thing about learning it on the 365 is you don't have to write an exam about it. You're just learning before so that you can understand. You're not learning for the sake of memorizing and regurgitating. And you know, the liver is the only organ that can completely repair itself in the sense that you can actually remove part of it, and that part you removed will regrow. And you can take the removed part and transplant it to somebody else, and the other part that's left behind and you grows in that other person. It's amazing, amazing. Then you learn about at least 15 different ways your immune system works and how it defends you. And when you understand that, all you want to do is help it. It's like, okay, I'm going to help my immune system. That's why we can go on raw food. We say when you're feeling sick or down, you go on raw food because you understand what it is the raw food does. You're getting all the antioxidants, the alkaline forming foods, and how this helps your immune system protect itself, protect the body. So very exciting times we live in. I'm not going to keep you any longer than this. We've been going an hour and a half. I want to respect your time. But thank you once again, Rachel, all of you for your stories.